Zone Media.
Oh, boy, howdy. We're back having a good time, and everything's good. We're podcasting about Alfred Hugenberg, a great asshole who, at this point in time, has helped make World War I a reality, which, you know, I hope to one day make World War I a reality. So
you are. You're keeping its memory alive right now.
Every day. As soon as this call finishes, Amanda Montell, our great guest and the author of Cultish, as soon as we finish this recording, I'm going to get back on the phone with Emmanuel Macron over in France and try to sell him some new machine guns, you know? And then I'm going to tell the Germans, do you know what Macron's doing? Holy shit.
What that moment moment when you become your podcast.
That's right.
Where do you end and it begins?
Look,
subject verb agreement. I don't know.
What's the one thing everyone agreed in 1913 and today? Too many young people in Europe, you know? We're gonna knock that problem out right away. Just make a new Western Front.
Great.
Exactly. You know, it's good for the economy. It's
famously
terrible. It destroys the whole thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's Place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments, we know a thing or two about living life out loud. We're taking you behind the scenes in our new podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow. Between Us isn't about perfect lighting or curated Instagram grids.
It's the unfiltered, behind-closed-doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on. Equal parts smart, funny, and a little bit scandalous.
Every week, Heather will bring you an unapologetic take on the headlines, the trends, and the cultural moments everyone's texting about.
And Terry will deliver insider beauty, health, and wellness insights you won't find on TikTok.
Together, we'll tell the stories, spill the secrets, and share the hacks that keep life, marriage, and everything in between feeling fresh and fun.
We may live in a gated community, but there's zero gatekeeping here.
And plenty of did they just say that moments?
Listen to Between Us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Anna Navarro, and on my new podcast, Bleep with Anna Navarro, I'm talking to the people closest to the biggest issues happening in your community and around the world. Because I know deep down inside right now, we are all cursing and asking what the bleep is going on. I'm talking to people like Julie K. Brown, who broke the explosive story on Jeffrey Epstein in 2018. These victims have been let down, time and time again. For decades and decades and decades, by local law enforcement, by federal law enforcement, by administration after administration.
The Justice Department, through, I think we counted 4 presidential administrations, failed these victims.
Listen to Bleep with Ana Navarro as part of the My Cultura podcast network. Available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We are at the point at which World War I is underway. Millions of boys are dying in an industrial form of slaughter heretofore unknown to the human race. And as Germany feeds its future into a steel maw of British and French bullets, Alfred Hugenberg has an idea. Now, the job he's working at this point is pretty close to what we'd call a hedge fund manager today, right? Not in terms of the way he's moving his money, but in the fact that he is the guy who other rich people give their cash to, and he tells them what to do with it in order to make the most of it, right? And he's always been very bullish on German expansion. That's kind of his whole deal. Like, what if we had more Germany? And he's always felt like Germany deserved a bigger piece of the pie that was Africa. And at this point, World War I, arguably Germany's best military commander of the entire war is in Africa, like a very actually like innovative insurgent kind of commander running a truly ingenious insurgent campaign. And after the initial first few weeks of heady advances through Belgium and eastern France, everything gets bogged down for the German army in the West. And so Africa is going to be one of those places that Germans can look to for like the kind of glorious martial stories of military cunning and courage that, you know, make good propaganda. Because like, and then another boy died in the mud. Not great stories, you know, not super inspiring, right?
So true.
So Hugenberg is like, naturally, when we Germans win this war, we're going to need to expand our African possessions. And for an idea of what it would have looked like had Hugenberg got his wishes, we don't have to look back much further than like the period that we're in right now, 1914. In fact, we just have to go back to January of 1904, which is when the Herero people of modern-day Namibia, led by a chief named Samuel Maharero, launched a rebellion against their German colonizers, right? So Germany already has Namibia. Hugenberg is looking at because he wants to take basically British African possessions and make them German, right? And what had happened 10 years before this in Namibia was the Herero had rebelled. They'd killed about 120-something German settlers. And the Germans had responded by bringing the armed might they have the most powerful army on the planet at the time, to bear against these guys who don't have an army. They just have some men who are warriors, right? So it's not like a military with like an industrial state behind it. And this does not go well for the Herero. And the actual fighting, the battle is won quite quickly because the Germans have artillery. And as a general rule, if one side has artillery and the other side has not that, the side with artillery wins. This is one of the fun rules of warfare that's been generally true. German soldiers pursue the fleeing civilians after they kind of break the fighting forces. They continue to pursue, because like the Herero flee, they try to get the fuck out of Namibia, right?
Sure.
And these colonial soldiers pursue these fleeing civilians into the desert and massacre thousands of them, a mix of just shooting them to death en masse and poisoning their wells. So they'll be in like the desert and they'll poison like a water supply to kill more of them.
Oh my God.
It's a genocide. This is a genocide. This is universally recognized as a genocide. You know, like Germany was doing genocides well before Hitler got into power, right? And around this time, they're also going to have a hand in the Armenian genocide during, World War I. So they're not clean on that either. In October of 1904, a German commander gave this order to Herero civilians seeking to return home to Namibia. Quote, "Within the German borders, every male Herero, armed or unarmed, will be shot to death. I will no longer take in women or children, but I will drive them back to their people or have them fired at. These are my words to the Herero people, from the great general of the mighty German Kaiser."
Okay, wait, I have a question. So one of the mind blow moments for me from our part one was the context that so much of German nationalism hinged on them being jealous of Britain's colonization of various territories.
Oh, yeah.
Were there, Still, though, Germany's attitude seems especially belligerent. Like, were there other nations that had like newly embraced nationalism around this time that aspired to the level of colonization and brutality that Germany was executing?
Sure. A great example would be Japan, who is starting their colonizing, who's starting to colonize right around. I mean, in World War I, they take a bunch of German possessions. This is a big part of Japanese colonial expansion, and they're going to be hideously genocidal everywhere the Empire of Japan spreads to. And obviously, the British have been doing colonizing a lot longer, but one of the first big acts of British colonialism was to kill, by some counts, tens of millions of people in Bengal through a famine that was largely the result of business choices made by a British corporation. So the fact that Germans get a colony in Namibia and almost immediately do a genocide, this is very much the norm, right?
Okay,
Shit like this happens constantly. Yes.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah, this is not at all like a freak incident. This is not just the Germans, right? This is a product of, this is just how colonialism always works.
Yeah,
but
for
Hugenberg is aware of what the Germans are doing in Namibia. This is reported on, and his whole attitude is, we need to be doing this to way more of Africa to make room for a bunch of German farmers, you know? Let's get on it. We've got better guns than these people. Wiping them out will be no problem. So when he talks about needing to expand to Africa, I wanted to tell that story because that's what he's talking about, right? Now, Africa, things are, I wouldn't say they're going well for Germany in the war, but it's one of the areas where they can take a lot of pride because they've got this like very innovative commander doing very innovative things over there. That's a lot sexier than what's happening on the Western Front past a point. The other big win the Germans had right at the start of the war was that they had conquered Belgium, right? Now, this is actually a big part of why they lose the war on a strategic level, because Belgium is an independent, neutral nation, right? The Germans take Belgium because they need it as a road to get to France, because this plan they have says that that's the best way to do these things. And the British are like, if you go through Belgium, maybe we don't have a dog in this fight, but if you go through Belgium, then you're going to be fucking with us, right? And they go through Belgium and the British get involved, right? So it's one of those things where the Germans are very proud to have a Belgium, but also it kind of is a big part of what fucks them over. But Hugenberg is not really thinking about that at the time. He sees Belgium as an investment opportunity, and he's very glad to have it. And he sees the same as, Germany has taken a good deal of French territory at this point in eastern France, which includes this one region of like southeast France that Germany has occupied, is where the French keep a big chunk of their mines, right? It's like a heavily resource-dense region, right? So he's looking at these new conquests and seeing them as permanent, even though the war is very much in doubt. He's like, the smart man needs to be thinking, how are we going to take advantage of this, right? What are we going to turn these new possessions that we have as a people into? So as the war grinds forward, the Pan-Germanic League works overtime, propagandizing that these new conquests are now German territory forever by right of blood, and no peace can even be negotiated if giving up Belgium or any French territory is required. This is a big part. A lot of people wonder, well, it became very quickly obvious no one's going to win this easily. It is bleeding everyone white. You're all wiping out whole generations of young men to fight this war. Why don't we just stop, right? And a big part of why is the allies, Britain and France are like, well, okay, like we'd be happy to end the war. They're not initially like this, but there's a lot of willingness to end the war, but Germany has to give up the places they took, right? Like you can just keep all this France, like fuck you.
Yeah.
You can just keep Belgium and the Germans. And this is a big part of why the German state and the Kaiser refuse to go along with this is you've got this very influential Pan-Germanic League being like, absolutely under no circumstances can we compromise on these territories, right? Again, that's not all of why this happens, but they're not a small part of why there is no willingness to compromise, which could have ended the war at least a year or two earlier, right? Maybe in a way that would have been less overall calamitous to the German economy, right? Because a negotiated peace wouldn't have involved Germany completely surrendering. Maybe they would have had to give back a bunch of this territory, but they could have maintained being a functional state and not had It wouldn't have been like a Treaty of Versailles situation, right? Potentially it's a much better future. But Hugenberg and his ideological simpaticos are like, the fuck? Give up Belgium? We have all sorts of plans for Belgium, you know?
The overconfidence, man.
I get it. As an Italian man, my natural enemy is the Belgian, you know? As Caesar said, all Gaul is divided into 3 parts, and one of those motherfucking parts is the Belgians, and I got a quarrel with them. I'm still hoping to take Belgium one day. I think I could.
As an Italian, I thought your number one enemy was not eating lunch.
Not eating lunch, 7-hour dinners, the Persians. We have a lot of enemies, we Italians.
So many enemies.
Also, healthcare CEOs, apparently. Anyway.
Yes. The Italians, they're everywhere, and they're doing all sorts of things.
Our most famous Italian.
Oh my God, is that true? Is that the most famous Italian at the moment?
What Italian is more famous than that guy right now?
Ooh,
Berlusconi? Absolutely not.
No way. I feel like Luigi has even overtaken like the Luigi from Mario, which he's definitely
he's more famous than Mussolini now, which I gotta say is a huge win for Italian Americans. You know, like
honestly, whoa,
massive dub.
What a weird PR strategy.
Yeah.
You're like,
we're looking a lot better these days. Now, you got to remember, so the war is on, and while he's a part of this group that's pushing, we can't give any of this up, his job is running this like organization made up of all of the rich guys with mines and arms companies pooling some of their money together. This organization is called the Zekenverband. And it's an association of industrial businesses, mines, and Krupp. Like there's companies like Krupp in there too. So it's not just raw material producers, it's people who use those raw materials. And basically it's just everybody with a big business in the Ruhr, in this industrial heartland region. The Zekenverband had been founded in 1908 to represent their common interests. In pre-war, this had mainly meant fucking with labor unions. And up through the end of the war, the Zekenverband was successful at ensuring no one mine union could work with any other mine union, right? They basically made sure legislatively unions could not ally, right? So that you can strike at one mine or one factory, but you can't organize any kind of general strike, right? And the Zekenverband also had a strike fund, but for mine owners themselves, so that if the workers at any mine went on strike, other mines that were their competitors would pay to keep them going because it was more important to fight the labor, right? Now that the war is going on, there's suddenly a lot more on the line than just like, fucking with labor unions. The good news for these guys is that profits fucking soar because Germany needs a lot more weapons now, right? And the people making the raw materials that become bullets and cannons, they're doing great. The people making the weapons are great. This is a good time to have stock in Krupp. Hugenberg helped gently direct the eyes of his hungry fellow mine owner, or of these hungry mine owners, towards all of the territory in France and Belgium that they might be able to exploit in the future. He's like, hey guys, I know we're making bank now. The war's got to end someday, but we just got all this new French territory, a lot of mines there. Belgium, a lot of mining potential in Belgium. We should start investing now in being able to take advantage of that once the war ends and we still own all it. And so from Hugenberg's perspective, the thing he is most frightened of in late 1914, 1915, 1916, the thing that scares him is peace. Because if peace goes wrong, he's going to lose a lot of investments that he started to make, right?
Okay, so this is my question. Like, just sort of nervous system wise, I can't relate at all to these motherfuckers because...
Well, you shouldn't. I mean, they're monsters. They're ghouls.
for sure. But even if I'm like at my most empathetic and I'm like, let me get into the mind and body of an Artie type just to see what's making him tick. I still can't understand how one could reconcile wanting wartime and wanting conflict because it will be good for your wallet. But like, we're not. I just don't get it how it works.
Part of it is because they also tell themselves, we're not being selfish. We're patriots, and this will be better for Germany, right? The sacrifice is worth it for
justify the means
Germany.
philosophy.
But the other thing, I think, if you want to get into your head how these people can be so greedy, I think there's a micro way of kind of looking at it. There was a time, I'm sure, in your life, Amanda, the same is true of me, same is going to be true of most people listening, where you made a lot less money than you currently make, right? You know, when you're 19 or whatever.
Yeah,
and you survived, right? You paid rent and you ate food, right? Now you make, I'm presuming, more money than you did when you were 18 or 19, and you're still surviving, but you also probably still have a lot of economic anxiety, even though you have a lot more, which is very common. And that psychological process doesn't stop just because you have more money than you can ever spend, right?
Yeah. Especially if you grew up without much.
Exactly.
Right.
Like if you get $1 billion, statistically, the thing you want to do most people, not everyone, like Tom from MySpace seems to have avoided this, but statistically, a lot of people who get $1 billion, the main thing on their mind is, now I want to get 2. I need to get 10. I need to get, right? Like that's just kind of like, you know, it's why you need to have like societal restrictions that stop people from accumulating like that, because once the process starts mentally, very few people can avoid continuing down that road, even to some extent, even if they're reasonably good people ahead of time, right? Like it's just kind of,
that's so true.
It's a drug. It's a drug. It's like giving someone a heroin, right? Sometimes people, you give them a heroin, they might get addicted even if they don't want to, because that's what drugs do, you know?
I know. It just keeps reminding me of, I mean, obviously we have like cultural lessons and axioms and proverbs that try to convince us to resist those impulses. And one I always think of is that Edward Abbey quote that's like, growth for growth's sake is the ideology of a cancer cell.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
It's so hard to internalize messaging like that.
Well, and again, and that's why there's got to be just actual, like, you have to, at the kind of collective level, make rules to stop that, because individual people, not that no one can avoid this, because there are people who have strong enough sense of self and moral centers that even if they have the option, won't get that rich, won't let it happen. Right. But usually this does not happen. The Hugenberg route, where people are like, because, and again, you have to go back to the heroin comparison, the amount of money they start making because of the war, like they don't want to give that up, period, right? Like
it's like Pavlov's dog. It's like, if money comes because of war, let's do more war.
Delicious. I love it all.
Yes.
Yeah. So Hugenberg convinces these guys the only threat to our future profits is peace, particularly the wrong sort of peace. And if we want to make that impossible, I need you to give me some of your money, and we're going to start buying up newspapers, right? Because that's how we can kill the peace movement. Because from the beginning, once this war starts wiping out generations of young men, there's an anti-war movement brewing, even within Germany, a pretty sizable one. And they're like, this is all the fault of like Bolshevik propaganda. We need to start buying the newspapers, and then we can convince everyone their son's dying is a good idea. So the 4 largest of the companies that are in this organization that Hugenberg's heading, the Zeichenverband, including Krupp, which is still managed by Hugenberg, send representatives to act as spokesmen for the creation of a private association, the Wirtschaftliche Gesellschaft. And this is a trust fund regularly topped off by profits from war profiteers and used to, quote, countermand threatening dangers in the economic and social fields. Leopold, in his biography of Hugenberg, continues. Through the use of diverse bank accounts and holding companies administered by additional trustees, Hugenberg and these industrial leaders masked their control. The Ausland, established in 1914, became one of their key corporations. The Wirtschaftsdienst GmbH, incorporated in May of 1916, concealed investments made for the improvement of economic news service and the management of press corporations. A third firm, the Deutsche Gewerbehaus AG, established in February of 1917, officially managed funds for the erection of business offices for the varied associations of German industry. Its larger purpose, however, was to participate in various businesses and measures which appeared suitable to the corporation for the advancement of general German industrial and national interests. So they are buying up newspapers and they're creating organizations to manage newspapers as a group. And they're hiding through these shell companies the fact that they own all of these papers and that it's Hugenberg pulling the strings. Now, this, of course, means you need to bribe a lot of people and you need to make the kind of investments that act as bribes. But a large chunk of the tens of millions of Reichsmarks that are raised in this period are put towards the purchase directly of media organs. The fund set its beady eyes on a large Berlin publishing house, the August Schurl Company, named after a right-wing newspaper entrepreneur. He was basically the equivalent of the German William Randolph Hearst, or the guy who created the Daily Mail back in the UK. Like, he's that kind of guy. These are conservative papers.
Yeah.
This is like the Fox News of its day in Germany.
Yeah,
and
Murdoch situation.
Right. And so these guys buy it, right? The Schurl Company's two big publications are Der Tag, which is for intellectuals in the capital, and Berliner Lokalanzeiger, which is about 10 times larger in terms of its readership and is aimed more at the working class. Schurl also ran a series of small...
Robert, were you always this good at reading and pronouncing German words, or has the podcast...
I'm not good at all. Oh, people are going to be talking so much shit about how I'm saying these things.
Oh, I mean, it sounds like super confident. You're not even fumbling.
I don't do well at this. I think people are going to be laughing at me.
Be convinced.
You're pretty good at Ukrainian words, but other than that,
I don't know if I'd say that, but
oh, does that say something about you? I don't know.
No.
That's fascinating.
So Schurl ran a bunch of small weekly papers all over the country, all of which are united only by a shared conservative view of reality and politics. And this stood in opposition. The August Schurl Company is the big conservative publisher. The two bigger publishers in Germany are the Rudolf Mosse Company and the Ullstein Company, both of which are pro-democratic and generally liberal. August Schurl, the company, had been profitable until 1914 when the war broke out, because everything gets more expensive when the war breaks out. There's massive inflation. It's very difficult to afford to put out a newspaper. And part of why people stopped reading the August Schurl publications in 1914 is that up to the war starting, they'd been telling everyone, hey, this is going to go great. You're going to love the war. We're going to be done in a couple of months. Everyone will be back at home by Christmas. And when that doesn't happen, people are like, well, maybe I don't like this paper. Now that all 4 of my sons are dead, perhaps I will stop reading these guys. Yeah. So they're Hugenberg's able to buy this shit on the cheap in 1916 using these pooled industry funds. Now, by the time the August Schurl Company sells to Hugenberg, things are bad enough that they need 7 million marks just to settle their debt. And then they got to put Hugenberg has to put a few million more into it in order to actually invest so that the company can be profitable again. But he doesn't care.
Is that chump change to him?
Yes. He is all essentially a billionaire at this point, right? Whoa. Not literally, because nobody had that much at that point, really, but he is essentially a billionaire. For our terms, he would have been a billionaire if we're kind of adjusting shit, right?
Yeah.
Schurl agrees because, again, this is chump change to him, and he doesn't care about profits. His condition is that if he buys this thing and gets them out of debt, he has full, absolute personal control over the publishing house and what they publish. So the Schurl Company inks an agreement, and Hugenberg puts one of his friends from the Pan-Germanic League in charge of the holding company that manages it. Instantly, Schurl's papers go from being conservative to adopting the exact same line on war aims that Hugenberg and his fellow war profiteers wanted. No peace unless we get everything. And also, no peace while there's a buck to be made. One of Hugenberg's friends laid out the motivation of this cartel in buying these papers very directly in a letter. This is one of Hugenberg's friends writing in a letter about what they're doing.
Whoa, can't wait.
The gentleman, this is who he's writing to, should not believe that we were involved to have a good investment. We knew that nothing would come out of this, and we wanted to have political influence for our money. In other words, we're going to make money off of these. This is a loss leader. It's like, the Daily Wire. We're going to pump money into this, not because it'll make us money, but because it'll change the culture in a way that makes us money.
Oh my God. They're poisoning wells in so many ways.
Yeah, they do. The Germans and well poisoning. Big well poisoning culture at this point in time.
Robert, speaking of poisoning the well.
Speaking of, you know who loves poisoning? Nope. Here's ads.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's Place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments, we know a thing or two about living life out loud. We're taking you behind the scenes in our new podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow. Between Us isn't about perfect lighting or curated Instagram grids.
It's the unfiltered, behind closed doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on. Equal parts smart, funny, and a little bit scandalous.
Every week, Heather will bring you an unapologetic take on the headlines, the trends, and the cultural moments everyone's texting about.
And Terry will deliver insider beauty, health, and wellness insights you won't find on TikTok.
Together, we'll tell the stories, spill the secrets, and share the hacks that keep life, marriage, and everything in between feeling fresh and fun.
We may live in a gated community, but there's zero gatekeeping here.
And plenty of, did they just say that moments?
Listen to Between Us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Anna Navarro, and on my new podcast, Bleep with Anna Navarro, I'm talking to the people closest to the biggest issues happening in your community and around the world. Because I know deep down inside right now, we are all cursing and asking what the bleep is going on. I'm talking to people like Julie K. Brown, who broke the explosive story on Jeffrey Epstein in 2018. These victims have been let down time and time again. For decades and decades and decades, by local law enforcement, by federal law enforcement, by administration after administration.
The Justice Department, through, I think we counted 4 presidential administrations, failed these victims.
Listen to Bleep with Anna Navarro as part of the My Cultura podcast network. Available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back. And you know what? I just put strychnine in a well, and I gotta say, it feels good. You know, it's a hoot. Doesn't hurt anybody, except for the people who drink from the well, and I don't know them. So, yeah, you know what? I get it. I'm a German nationalist now. Long live the Kaiser. Anyway, in addition to pushing an extreme... Sophie, you always say, every time I try to give the Kaiser praise, you just hate Kaisers for some reason. What about Kaiser Permanente?
I wonder what... No, also no.
Yeah, that's even worse than the last Kaiser.
Yeah, that's a really bad Kaiser. I got the fuck out of that Kaiser.
Some fucking guy sat down and was like, I want to be a Kaiser, but I want to kill more people than the last Kaiser. I know! I'll become a health insurer.
Oh my God.
Honestly,
never trust a
Kaiser Wilhelm would probably do a better job.
Yeah, totally.
I think I'm gonna go.
What a nightmare.
I think I'm gonna go from no.
Mm-hmm. I think we should let him give it a shot. So in addition to pushing an extreme line on war aims. The papers were also set to the task of attacking the left, which it defined as anyone supportive of democracy. Alfred didn't write his own propaganda, but he was very involved at the operational level, investing in several major papers to push them further right, and also establishing a separate fund to shotgun money off to little nationalist papers all over the empire. So they're not just buying papers, they're giving away money to small independent papers to keep them afloat during World War I. So all of like the centrist papers are going out of business because it's a terrible time to be in business in Germany. So are a lot of the left-wing ones. But the right-wing press thrives because he's paying it with war money, right?
Oh my God. God. Is this what's happening in conservative media right now? Because
yes,
I don't
exactly.
know if yeah.
Or it's what was. The Daily Wire might be going bankrupt now, but you know, the oligarchs got what they needed out of them, right? Yeah, it's this thing of like, wow, it's hard to be an honest newspaperman trying to report accurately on things. And also, those people are dangerous to us. What if we made the only profitable kind of news right-wing news using our infinite monies? Yeah.
Oh my God. Did you see that infographic or like some?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it in the form of an infographic talking about how like, the like biggest thought leaders and pundits right now, like podcasters, are all conservative, except for like one exception, that being Trevor Noah. And I was just like, this feels like a conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean, it was. It's just a very obvious one, right? You put a lot of money into buying and building audiences. Conspiracy. Yeah, and you get people on the boards
strategy
of the social media companies, so they make sure the algorithms support it. You know, same as it ever was. So, Hugenberg's support of war aims that held German expansion as non-negotiable led him to back the political ambitions of Field Marshal Paul von Hindenburg and General Erich Ludendorff, both of whom are going to be key players in Hitler's rise. Hindenburg is the guy who hands over control to Hitler when he dies, and Ludendorff is the general who marches with Hitler during the Beer Hall Putsch. Now, by this point, and the war is still on right now, there's a huge anti-war movement, right? By 1917, a lot of Germans are like, what if we stopped killing our sons? We can call these the sane people. And so Hugenberg hates these folks, and he helps develop and advertise a right-wing counterpart, the German Fatherland Party. Now, the only real demand of the German Fatherland Party is that Germany should annex everything and keep fighting until the rest of Europe agrees to let them keep it.
You just stop. That name is, I was triggered by, I did not enjoy that name. That was bad.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're like 3 years away from the American Fatherland Party, Sophie. It's going to be great.
I think we're already there.
We might be. Now, while he's also playing the part of arch propaganda baron of the right, Alfred starts taking investment money from his friends with the end goal of exploiting all of those resources Germany was definitely going to control entirely once the war ended. Per John Leopold, quote, he established 3 companies which would help Germany exploit Belgian resources. Similarly, at the end of 1917, he formed a company to develop the post-war settlement of French territory, which he expected the Reich to annex. Much more elaborate plans were formulated for the colonization of the East, which were incorporated in 1918 after the Russian defeat. Now, if you know your history, you know that investing in Germany continuing to control France, Belgium, and Western Russia in 1917, not a good investment. About to really, really go badly for Hugenberg. But I read this because by the end of World War I, he has become a bookie for war on a continental scale. He's taken everybody's cash, right? Like this, you know, and all the cash of the people who are betting on we're going to keep all this shit, right?
Yeah.
He takes in some 37 million marks to establish cooperative funds aimed at settling German farmers on conquered land. And then, of course, Germany loses the war. Now, again, it is 100% agreed by absolutely everyone, every professional historian, every military historian, even the German ones, that Germany simply could not continue to fight. At the moment they made peace was the last moment they could have done it without the army shattering entirely and leaving a clear path to Berlin. And by the way, without a full-scale socialist revolution overtaking the country, right? And they almost have one anyway. Like Germany is absolutely out of gas. They have fucking nothing left. But if you're looking at a map like a dumb person, it looks like Germany gives up when they're winning. They're still in France. They still have Belgium, and they've got a lot of Russian territory. Germany's the biggest it's ever been. It's the largest continental empire that I think it existed certainly since the era of the Roman Empire. It might have been larger. I don't recall precisely, but it looks really good on a map if you're not aware of the fact that all of their soldiers are about to drop dead where they're standing, right? Now, Hugenberg is not a dumb man. He understands the army literally could not have kept fighting, but he can't accept that intellectually because that would mean that he'd been wrong. And he just is not the kind of guy who can be wrong.
No.
So he convinces himself, we've been stabbed in the back. Somebody fucked this up for us. It wasn't me and the other people running this fucking country. And he sets his vast propaganda apparatus. He now controls the papers, and he sets the papers to convincing the country of what we now call the big lie, right? Germany didn't lose because we got outfought and outlasted, and we pissed off the Americans. And boy, maybe we shouldn't piss off the people who have literally all of the resources on planet Earth behind them. Possibly a bad idea when we're Germany. We lost because a sinister alliance of Jews, socialists, and liberal Democrats stabbed the fatherland in the back, you know? That's why all this happened. It's not that we picked a fight with a man who was 3 feet taller than us and made of solid steel. Again, I'm talking about the U.S. in this period of time. After we were already beaten so bloody that our eyes had swollen shut. You know, it's not that. It's the Jews, you know? The August Scherl Company plays a substantial role in spreading this lie, and their propaganda falls on welcome ears, not just among the same group of people where the nascent Nazi Party did most of its recruiting at this time. He focused a lot on the Bildungsbürgertum, right? The younger members of that class, these university students, many of whom had been too young to fight, right? And this spelled the final end of liberalism within the Bildungsbürgertum, as Hermann Beck lays out in his book, The Fateful Alliance. Students preceded the established Bildungsbürgertum in appropriating a new conservatism. Before the German defeat in the First World War and the subsequent economic turmoil and inflation, this cultivated bourgeoisie had enjoyed significant material security and comfort, as well as greater social prestige than its counterparts in other European countries. To them, defeat in the war was more than a military disaster. It signified personal humiliation and the loss of a distinct cultural identity. As a result, large sections of the educated elite moved further to the political right.
Yeah, there's nothing that turns like a generous, intellectually rigorous class of people conservative, like bitterness.
Like bitterness, yeah.
Loss aversion,
suddenly
conspiratorialism.
I thought I was promised more than this. It must be someone's fault.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Now, Hugenberg's papers aren't just geared towards these people. And in fact, he's got a bunch of papers that are geared towards different segments of the population. But because, number one, I mean, he's from this group, they're best at messaging to these people, right? You know, it takes less than 2 years after the end of the war for like this rage and mania that's being drilled into German conservatives via Hugenberg's propaganda to really start to flourish. And one of the conservatives who is influenced by this stuff and is going to have a big impact on things is a fellow traveler of Hugenberg's named Wolfgang Kapp. Now, Kapp, interestingly enough, had been born in New York City because his family fled during the 1848 revolutions. There's this wave of left-wing revolutions all around Europe in 1848. They don't succeed in toppling the German government, but it's scary. Kapp's family comes from money, and they leave to be in New York for a while, right? But he moves back. He spends his youthful years in Germany, and he is kind of sculpted from conception to be a right-wing culture warrior, right? His family and his wife's family are nationalists. They have strong far-right pedigrees, and Kapp grows up to run an agricultural credit union. He used his position to argue against debt relief for starving farmers, and in World War I full-throatedly endorsed the impossible war aims of Hugenberg and his ilk. He was also very bullish on unrestricted submarine warfare. This guy thinks, you know what'll win us World War I is if we just shoot everybody shipping all the time. Yeah. You know what never pisses off, again, for example, the United States is killing a bunch of their citizens in boats. They love having their citizens killed in boats. Let's do a lot more of that, right? Doesn't work out very good. Not a great thing for Germany. Yeah. So after the war, Kapp co-founds the German Fatherland Party, or at the end of the war, Kapp is the co-founder of this German Fatherland Party, right? That Hugenberg is backing, alongside a guy named Admiral Tirpitz. And it was in this position that Kapp first makes contact with the Pan-German League. Germany had been entirely overtaken by a socialist revolution in the aftermath of the war. The whole country barely stops from going socialist because the Weimar government that gets put in place after the Kaiser leaves basically like is a compromise government meant to avoid full civil war. And they, to a significant extent, make kind of a deal with a lot of these right-wing forces, with the military, with the Freikorps, which are these groups of like veterans who fought against the left. That's kind of all happening in this period in order to like put that down. And these Freikorps units that develop, these guys aren't yet Nazis because Nazis don't exist yet, but a lot of them will be later. And they basically are the inspiration for the brown shirts or the SA. And Kapp sees these paramilitaries that form to crush the left in, you know, the immediate post-war period. And he realizes like there's a lot of potential here. We can mobilize these people, not just to do violence for us, but as like a voting bloc. Now, the problem is Kapp is not good at waiting for his moment. So once he forms this umbrella organization to lump these paramilitaries together, and he gets General Ludendorff to agree to join, right? And then he tries to overthrow the government. And one thing that's funny is that Ludendorff gets on board with this plan a few years later in 1923, because this is 1920. He's going to do the same thing with Hitler. Ludendorff loves trying to overthrow the Weimar government. He's no good at it, but loves trying.
What a nasty little habit.
Yeah. It's his cigarettes. So Kapp's whole idea here is called the Kapp Putsch, and it's the same basic plan that in a lot of ways that Hitler's going to try to execute, although different logistically. He's really focused on Berlin from the start. He wants to try to take the capital. And for our purposes today, I'll just say it doesn't work, right? And what's relevant to Hugenberg, who's our focus, is that the League is definitely aware that Kapp is planning this putsch, and they give him a little bit of quiet support. But as soon as it becomes clear that he's not going to win, the League disavows him and is like, we never supported, oh my God, treason? Absolutely not. Us? And Ludendorff kind of does the same thing, and they all walk away unscathed. Almost no one is punished for trying to overthrow the government. Kapp even is allowed to go into exile in Sweden, right? Nobody wants to piss off the far right by punishing them for trying to overthrow the government and institute a dictatorship. And a lot of these same guys are going to do it again. Fascinating how that works. So Hugenberg and his fellow plutocrats, you know, they make the public noises they have to make, you know, that's like, oh, that's how horrible. Why would anyone try that? But Hugenberg is also already trying to figure out, how can I overthrow the Weimar government? And he's not a putsch guy. He doesn't want to have a bunch of dudes with guns do it. He's going to overthrow Weimar democracy through the ballot box, right? That's his plan. Alfred had left Krupp finally in 1918 with a gargantuan fortune and a lot of influence. In 1922, Germany defaulted on her reparations repayments, which led to a cascading series of problems. The French occupy the Ruhr, this industrial heartland. If you're not going to pay, we're going to take the money out of you by occupying the place where you make everything. The government, in order to counter the French, backs a general strike, you know, so no one's going to work in the Ruhr. Then it's not worth it for you to occupy it. And the effect of all this is the economy fucking nosedives, right? And since people aren't working, the government starts printing more money to try and keep things going. And, you know, that's how you get hyperinflation, right? We're all aware of that. This is the thing people generally know about Weimar. And, you know, this is bad for basically everyone, but it's really good for Hugenberg because he's got a lot of liquid assets and everything is basically for sale in Germany for pennies on the dollar. So he buys up basically all of the remaining newspapers that he didn't own and wanted to own.
Oh my God.
And now they're his personal property. He's not just owning them through this organization he's helping to run. He's just the guy who owns all these fucking papers. By the mid-1920s, he is the single largest media magnate in Germany. He has unparalleled reach. Probably no single person had ever had as wide a reach for disseminating their ideas to a culture as Alfred Hugenberg has in this period of time. He has total control.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So he's back to his roots.
He's back to his roots. He spent 44 billion on X or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and he does. He purchases the largest German cinema chain. So he runs the movie theaters too, which means he gets to pick like what sort of newsreels go on ahead of movies in Germany. Like this guy owns the media.
Ideology of a cancer cell.
That's right. Exactly. He's fucking cancer. In 1928, he compounds all of that by purchasing his very own political party. Now, he doesn't literally buy it, but he uses his wealth and influence and control of the press to become the chairman of the German National People's Party. Okay. This is the largest right-wing nationalist party in the country at the time. And his plan is going to be, I want to shift it even further right. And I'm going to read from an article by C.N. Truman here. In 1931, he produced the party's new manifesto. Hugenberg called for the immediate restoration of the monarchy, the tearing up of the Treaty of Versailles, much greater contact between Germany and Austria, compulsory military service, a new German empire, and a reduction in the perceived economic power the Jews had in Weimar's economy. Hugenberg's most immediate target was Chancellor Heinrich Brüning, who he believed was pushing Weimar inexorably towards socialism. Hugenberg was one of the most influential men at the 1931 Harzburg Front Conference, which met with the specific aim of trying to persuade the aging president, Hindenburg, to sack Brüning. So he is a major part of the conditions that formed to allow Hitler's rise in this period of time, and he wants to be Hitler. His goal is to put himself in charge of the country by buying this party, right? That's kind of how he is thinking at this period of time. Now, unfortunately, he's not
Isn't he getting tired?
Oh no,
he's
why
been
would he
at
get
this
tired?
for a while.
Yeah, I mean, again, cocaine's available over the counter in this period, so it was a lot easier to have energy, I guess.
So fair. I'm just thinking he must be experiencing back pain by now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and he can't be moving too well. Although he's never had to work physically a day in his life, so maybe he's doing okay.
Right.
He wasn't in the trenches.
A lot of sitting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sitting, though.
True. Now, under Hugenberg, the National People's Party actually shrinks because there's a lot of conservatives who are conservatives, but they're not super anti-Semitic or even, some of them might have just been actual Jewish conservatives, and they're not going to stick around as he makes the party much, much worse on that. And there's also a chunk of conservatives who are economic conservatives, but military nationalism. We just had a horrible war. I'm not really down for it. So the party shrinks under Hugenberg. And the folks who leave tend to join either the Conservative People's Party or the largest, the Center Party. Others rejected the monarchist bent, and they saw what Hugenberg was doing as watered-down nationalism. So they just went and joined the Nazi Party, who in this point in time consider Hugenberg and the conservatives one of their big enemies. Because at their root, the Nazis are a poor workers' party in this period. And while they have wealthy elites backing them, the whole capital class has not yet gone in for the Nazis, right? There are some early rich backers of the Nazis, like Hitler's friend Putzi, right? That guy Hanfstaengl, who's a very rich guy who helps bankroll the Nazis early. But most of the early rich people who bankroll the Nazis are socialites, and they get on board with the Nazis because the Nazis are cool and transgressive. Yeah, and they want to be cool too, right?
Yeah.
Hitler's first real inroad to wealth, to serious money, was an industrialist named Fritz Thyssen. Now, that last name Thyssen, Thyssen, if you go into an elevator right now, walk into basically any elevator in the world, wherever you happen to be, and look around, you will see somewhere in that elevator, almost certainly, the name Thyssen Krupp. Krupp, of course, is the arms company that we talked about earlier. Thyssen is the company of Fritz Thyssen. They merge at a certain point, and they make all the elevators as well as submarines that get sold to the Egyptians.
I was already considering taking the stairs more.
That's right. Take the stairs, fight time. I mean, they're just kind of a boring company now, but these are the origins of all of that, right?
I don't like those roots. I'm taking those
not
stairs.
Great roots,
good for the glutes. Good for the soul.
So Fritz Thyssen had been social with Hitler for a while from like the 20s. So they become like kind of friends, but Fritz is also like, I don't know if this guy's going anywhere. He's kind of extreme. I'm not going to like go whole hog in. But in the 30s, he's like, you know what? This guy is the best speaker I've ever seen. He's enthralled by what he calls Hitler's oratorical gifts. And he says, what impressed me most.
Although I don't get that either. Okay, I want to hear what impressed him most. Let's hear that first.
Yeah, what impressed me most was the order that reigned in his meetings, the almost military discipline of his followers. It's hard to tell Hitler's charisma as a Westerner watching these speeches.
It is. I do not get it. It's yelly. It's one note. He doesn't follow the rules of like classical dynamics. It's like a bad pop song that's just fortissimo the whole way through.
Sure, but like
it's like where did mezzo piano go?
People say that about Trump, and it works.
That's true. That's true. The populist yelling.
Hitler's really good at tweaking the amygdala of his followers and at promising them vengeance. And if you can do those two things effectively, you can get about anything you want out of a population.
That's so true. It's cathartic. It's cathartic.
Right. So Thyssen has been kind of shotgunning. He's been funding the Nazis as a little as a side hobby for a while in the late 20s, but in January of 1932, he looks out. The communists are also climbing in the polls, right? And the Nazis actually look like they're kind of bottoming out, like they've reached their height, but the communists are still getting more popular. And he can see that things are reaching a terminal juncture in Weimar. Something is going to break soon, and he wants it to break for the right. And he's like, Hitler's my best bet. So he invites Hitler to speak in Dusseldorf before an assembly of industrial magnates. After the speech, all of the richest guys in Germany, the people who own, all of the factories, all the big businesses whose donations had usually gone to like the center party or to kind of one of the center right parties, they start sending money to the tune of around 2 million marks a year to the Nazis. And because they don't want to be seen directly funding the Nazis, they reach out to a guy they all knew and had worked with who was really good at funneling money, Alfred Hugenberg. And it's going to be Hugenberg who funnels the money from these industrialists directly into the Nazis. Now, in this, he is playing the same role he'd done earlier, but he's not a Nazi himself. He does not like Hitler. He hates Hitler, as a matter of fact. He thinks he's gross. He's poor. He's a corporal, right? Like, he's not as good as me. He doesn't have an education. His lot of these
mustache doesn't look like Squidward's tentacles.
Exactly. It looks like a little one of those bars you put over someone's dick if they're naked. No, absolutely not. I'm convinced at this point that I'll hold my nose because Hitler and these Nazis, they can be a good weapon against the left. And obviously that's what matters most, is crushing the left.
Yeah. There's so much of that happening in Germany throughout these years.
Yeah.
A lot of nose holding.
Not a lot. Yeah. And it'll happen elsewhere soon. So Hugenberg doesn't stop running his own political party. And in fact, he gets in the Reichstag. He gets elected to office. And his message, which is not as effective as the Nazi message, is in part not as effective because he's really speaking mostly to this educated upper middle class, the Bildungsbürgertum. As Hermann Beck wrote in The Fateful Alliance, the educated elite's fate had been closely aligned with that of the empire. With the empire's demise, it suffered a decline in reputation that increased its alienation from Weimar, to which inflation added the grievance of material destitution. The inflation broke the economic spine of the Bildungsbürgertum, whose lifestyle had been supported largely by their savings, as regular salaries rarely sufficed to maintain the material accoutrement that went with their exalted social position, such as domestic servants, and a costly education for their offspring. Probably no part of the German population felt the humiliating changes in everyday life more deeply than the educated elite. None felt more distant from a republican regime with which reconciliation seemed impossible. So again, he's like, hey, you guys are angry because your treats are gone. You can't afford servants anymore. That's what he's promising. Whereas Hitler's promising workers, I'll get vengeance for you for all these people who have made your lives hard, and I'll make sure you have jobs. And not just jobs, you'll get vacations, you know? That's a big thing the Nazis did, was like made it possible for like working class people. They had like funded vacations and shit like that's who he's talking to. Hugenberg's talking to like the sort of rich who were now sort of poor and like saying, I'm going to fix things for you, right? So for a time, because this is not that large a chunk of the population, it seemed as if Hugenberg was destined to watch his party shrink while the Nazis grew and grew right alongside the communists. And while he is responsible for funneling some money to Hitler, he refuses to compromise within the party, right? Like he is not willing to change what the German National Party is saying because he wants it to be his mouthpiece. And in fact, when he gets rid of so many of his rivals that like the party is insolvent, like he's gotten rid of so many people that were funding it that like it can't be funded anymore, he just pays for the whole party himself.
Yeah.
Now, there's still
oh my
the
God,
matter.
he's like just this sad dude with no friends and so much money.
No friends and all the money. Again, so familiar to a certain plutocrat we all know and are frustrated by today. Now, speaking of people with no friends, if you want to have friends, make friends with these sponsors.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's Place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments, we know a thing or two about living life out loud. We're taking you behind the scenes in our new podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow. Between Us isn't about perfect lighting or curated Instagram grids.
It's the unfiltered, behind-closed-doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on. Equal parts smart, funny, and a little bit scandalous.
Every week, Heather will bring you an unapologetic take on the headlines, the trends, and the cultural moments everyone's texting about.
And Terry will deliver insider beauty, health, and wellness insights you won't find on TikTok.
Together, we'll tell the stories, spill the secrets, and share the hacks that keep life, marriage, and everything in between feeling fresh and fun.
We may live in a gated community, but there's zero gatekeeping here.
And plenty of did they just say that moments?
Listen to Between Us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Anna Navarro, and on my new podcast, Bleep with Anna Navarro, I'm talking to the people closest to the biggest issues happening in your community and around the world. Because I know deep down inside right now, we are all cursing and asking, what the bleep is going on? I'm talking to people like Julie K. Brown, who broke the explosive story on Jeffrey Epstein in 2018. These victims have been let down time and time again. For decades and decades and decades, by local law enforcement, by federal law enforcement, by administration after administration.
The Justice Department, through, I think we counted 4 presidential administrations, failed these victims.
Listen to Bleep with Ana Navarro as part of the My Cultura podcast network, available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back. So, Hugenberg is shotgunning some money to the Nazis in the early 30s, and he's got his party, which is winning seats in the Reichstag. It's actually like doing better and better in kind of 32. Not enough to control anything, but enough to be like part of a coalition. But he knows that, like, you know, the left is also still growing, and I want to win this larger battle for control of the German state. And so he kind of admits, I have to work more directly with the Nazis, right? It's not enough to just kind of like help get some money to them. I have to actually start helping them out using my resources. So Hugenberg diverts his vast media apparatus to the cause of boosting Hitler. By this point, he has a degree of control in some 1,400 newspapers and also owns the largest movie studio in Germany. One reporter at the time for a centrist paper described Hugenberg as the great disseminator of National Socialist ideas to an entire nation through newspapers, books, magazines, and films. And he's doing this because he envisions his party governing alongside the other right-wing party and the Nazis as a coalition. And so he's like, well, the more votes the Nazis get, the better our coalition can crush the left together. But will it be in a coalition together, right? And it's in this brief period, 32 to 33, that Hugenberg is going to reach the apex of his evil talents. By this point, he was simultaneously the bag man for the whole far right. He's funneling wealth from Germany's capitalists to the Nazis. He's funding his own party, and he's running this vast media empire. And he's also sitting in the Reichstag as an elected member and directly pushing his own political agenda. And I'm going to quote here from an excellent article in The Atlantic by Timothy Rybeck. Hugenberg practiced what he called Katastrophenpolitik, the politics of catastrophe, by which he sought to polarize public opinion and the political parties with incendiary news stories, some of them entirely fabricated articles intended to cause confusion and outrage. According to one such story, the government was enslaving German teenagers and selling them to its allies in order to service its war debt. Hugenberg calculated that by hollowing out the political center, political consensus would become impossible and the democratic system would collapse. As a right-wing delegate to the Reichstag, Hugenberg proposed a freedom law that called for the liberation of the German people from the shackles of democracy and from the onerous provisions of the Versailles Treaty. The law called for the treaty signatories to be tried and hanged for treason, along with government officials involved with implementing the treaty provisions. The French ambassador in Berlin called Hugenberg one of the most evil geniuses in Germany.
Oh my God. Okay, so you said like way earlier in this recording that Hugenberg was not necessarily the most introspective motherfucker. He was like...
Not for his own person, no.
Right. So what do you think he thinks is the justification for all of this at this point? Like, how is he not feeling cognitive dissonance or guilt or like... How is he? I'm just curious for your take on how he's...
I mean, why would he feel guilt? You know, he believes, number one, it's moral for Germany to take its place in the sun. He believes the Jews are a force for evil. He believes the poor need to be ruled by men like him. And he sees his bottom line as tied to this. I don't think it goes any deeper than that. I think, I mean, is this guy like associate? Like, could he have been diagnosed as a psychopath? I don't know. But like, this is not a man whose conscience troubles him for what he's doing overmuch.
Okay, yeah. Clearly.
In 1932, the Nazis carry the affluent Germans of the Berlin suburbs for the first time, which is a sign that some of the stuff that's going on here to boost them is working. Now, Joseph Goebbels does not want credit to go to Hugenberg, right? Even though Hugenberg is a part of why this happens, because Goebbels, who is Hitler's propaganda guy, despises Hugenberg and is repeatedly trying to turn Hitler against Hugenberg, which actually wasn't really necessary, because one thing Alfred can't do, he can't suck up. Maybe he can to richer guys, but he can't suck up to Hitler because Hitler's, again, some poor asshole who got wounded in the trenches like an idiot, right? That's how Hugenberg looks at these people. He's a social inferior. So Hitler doesn't like Hugenberg, I mean, just because no one does, right?
No one does.
No, he's a dick.
But does
like
Hugenberg
Elon,
not understand exactly? Yeah. But does Hugenberg not understand the power of youthful cool? Because
no. And in fact, there's a good bit here. So Vorwärts, a socialist paper in Weimar, Germany, had taken to drawing Hugenberg as a bloated frog in glasses, like that was their caricature of him. But even Hugenberg's friends had mean nicknames for him. Like the people close to him called him the hamster. Hitler, for his part, called Hugenberg Wow Wow or Woof Woof, right? Like he's a barking dog, right? He won't shut the fuck up. He's annoying the hell out of me. Now, that same year, Alfred opposed Hitler in the presidential election. So again, he's been putting money into Hitler and his propaganda has been boosting the Nazis, but he is still trying to oppose him politically. And he backs, I forget who he backs, it doesn't matter, but he backs someone who's not Hitler for the presidential election. And during this election, for the first time, his party actually takes seats from the Nazis, which does force Hitler to come to the table, right? Hitler is like, okay, well, I guess I do have to work with this guy who I don't like very much, because he just took some seats from me and my party's kind of maybe starting to bottom out. The meetings go by. They try to see if they can work out an agreement to like govern together. And they absolutely can't, because the Hitler's line, and he always sticks to this, is that we'll form a coalition government, but every ministry has to be headed by one of our people, right? We need them all. No compromise. And Hugenberg's not willing to compromise yet on that. Hugenberg himself is convinced that since his party has managed to capture a lot of seats, he and other conservatives, if they work with Hitler, can, quote, box Hitler in, right? So if we let the Nazis rule with us, we can kind of surround them and we'll stop him from doing any crazy shit. We'll be the adults in the room, right? So by late 1933, Hitler and Hugenberg are trapped in this incredibly difficult situation where Hitler has the ability to become chancellor because, you know, he's got Hindenburg's kind of starting to support the idea, like his party's got enough electoral success. But he can't, he needs Hugenberg's support to cross that line, right? Both his money and his kind of voting support, right? Hugenberg can't be chancellor on his own. He doesn't have nearly the votes. So he can help make Hitler the chancellor, but he has no chance of getting that for himself. And the Nazis sure as shit aren't going to make him chancellor. So a compromise is reached, right? As one of Hitler's friends put it, Hugenberg had everything but the masses. Hitler had everything but the money. In that excellent piece, yeah, exactly. In that excellent piece for The Atlantic, author Timothy Rybeck describes what happened next. After cantankerous negotiation, a deal was reached. Hugenberg would deliver Hitler the chancellorship in exchange for Hugenberg being given a cabinet post as head of a superministerium that subsumed the ministries of economics, agriculture, and nutrition. Once in the cabinet, Hugenberg didn't hesitate to meddle in foreign relations when it suited him. Reinhold Quatz, a close Hugenberg associate, distilled Hugenberg's calculus as follows. Hitler will sit in the saddle, but Hugenberg holds the whip. In other words, I am riding Hitler to success, and I can whip him if I need him to move in a direction.
Oh, God.
Now, there is immediately, everyone gets scared when Hitler winds up, you know, directly in power in Germany, and then Hugenberg gets this position where he's running all the ministries, and all of the dumb papers do the same thing they're doing today with Musk, where they're like, ha, you were so scared of this Hitler guy. This Hugenberg dude is running things. Obviously. The New York Times publishes a column where they describe Hugenberg as an arch-capitalist who, quote, stood in strongest discord with economic doctrines of the Nazi movement, right? And they're like, well, he's running the finances. This Nazi schmatzi, like Nazi schmatzi, they're not going to be that scary. This guy is going to run things, right? And
not when you put schmatzi after it.
Yeah. And the New York
Sounds
Times.
like the name of a little poodle.
They're usually wrong about stuff like this, but even the left gets confused. The communist daily paper in Berlin, the Red Banner, argues that Hugenberg is in charge, not Hitler. In fact, says that Hitler's socialist mask has slipped. Ha ha, he revealed his cards. It's the evil capitalists running things, just like we said, and they're doomed to fail, and then it'll be our turn next. The weekly journal Die Weltbund described the new government as Hitler, Hugenberg, and co. Roughly a day after Hitler was appointed chancellor, Hugenberg is said to have talked to a friend, the mayor of Leipzig, and told him, "I've just committed the greatest stupidity of my life. I have allied myself with the greatest demagogue in the history of the world." So while everyone else is like, "Oh, thank God, Hugenberg's running things. That crazy Hitler guy is just a figurehead." Hugenberg, who has a lot of power right now, but has become aware enough and is smart enough to be like, oh shit. This could go badly. This guy I might not be able to control for long.
And was it really just like Hitler's personality? Like everyone underestimated him and then just got fucking clobbered by the guy.
Well, the thing that people don't, it's the same thing with Trump, right? I always try to push back when people talk about how dumb Trump is, or what an idiot he is. Like he's not. He doesn't know a lot of things but he knows his business, which is getting number one, populist support, and also he is really good at maneuvering through organizations to crush dissent and reform them in his image. And Hitler is a genius politician. He is extremely skilled. This is an intellectual skill. He is not lucky. I mean, he's got luck behind him too. It's always a factor, but he is not accidentally succeeding. He is succeeding because he's better at the stuff that matters than the people opposing him. That's the reality. I guess too,
one of the reasons why people call Trump stupid is because of data that will come out from time to time saying that he speaks at a third grade reading level, whereas the average presidential candidate speaks at a 10th grade reading level or whatever.
Fucking do. Right.
Yeah.
Who beats a bunch of people who read at a 12th grade level? A bunch of people who read at a 5th grade level with more guns. Come on now.
I know.
Who gives it? Yeah. And Hitler's the same. Hitler's very good at what he does. He's good at building personal loyalty, and he's good at keeping his people in lockstep. They don't act without his approval, right? So, that said, right after Hitler becomes chancellor and Hugenberg is made this economic minister, he is a kid in a candy store, right? For the first few months of the Third Reich, Hugenberg has nominal control over the entire German economy. He describes himself as the economic dictator of Germany. And his first big step is to fire every government employee he can, trying to wipe out the entirety. He does a doge. He's trying to wipe out all of the administrative state, right? So because he's angry that he has had to pay for taxes for public, so he wipes out every public employee he can. And at the same time, he starts executing a one-man war against workers' rights. He cuts his own employee wages by 10% across the board. He gives everyone a pay cut as soon as he gets into power, and he guts labor rights and the right to strike across Germany. All of this he justifies as necessary in order to get the German economy back into shape. And he uses his vast network of newspapers to manufacture consent for extremist policies that damage the average German. One of his pet columnists wrote at the time, "The real battle against unemployment lies singularly and alone in reestablishing profitability in economic life." Parroting Alfred's personal beliefs, this editor argued that the goal of state policy should be to rescue the merchant middle class, aka small business owners, no matter the cost to everyone else. Now, the focus on the middle and upper middle class was reflected in the few good moves that Hugenberg made, including he puts in a temporary foreclosure moratorium. Now, he doesn't do an eviction moratorium, and that should tell you who he's working for, right? The people who are this kind of middle class that has just lost everything, he sees them as his base of support. He doesn't give a fuck about the renters, the people who are really poor, right? So there's a foreclosure moratorium, not an eviction moratorium. He also launches a limited debt jubilee calculated to support struggling members of the Bildungsbürgertum. And again, it's just kind of worth looking at sort of some of the stuff that he's doing, because it's not, some of these policies you could look at in a vacuum as good, but his overall goal is fuck the poor, I'm going to, build support among this kind of educated upper middle class elite. And of course, Hugenberg also pursues a tariff program focused mainly on agricultural goods in an ill-conceived attempt to rescue German farmers. If I tariff all of these foreign agricultural goods, then Germans will farm and be profitable. It'll be great. Now, the only result to these tariffs was that they skyrocket the cost of living. People who couldn't afford food can now afford food even less. And it goes so badly that Hitler has to intervene. At one point, he blows up during a meeting with Hugenberg and says, it just won't do that the financial burdens of these rescue measures fall only on the poorest. Like, when Hitler's being like, wow, this is unjust. You're a real dick.
Seriously.
So Hugenberg,
fucking Alf.
For his part, Hugenberg is not afraid to argue with Hitler. And he says, quite literally, we have to let the poor suffer. That eventually will even out the hardships, but they have to suffer first. This does not work. More Germans go hungry. The economy, which had recovered a lot from the hyperinflation a few years back, plunges. One of the few papers Hugenberg didn't control that was still allowed to operate nicknamed him the Confusionsrat, or confusion consultant. As is the case today, the mean nicknames don't hurt Hugenberg's feelings. Beck describes him as being utterly calloused to the idea of being despised. And it was true that the hatred of the right. I don't.
How do I get like just the tiniest little bit of that energy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? If you're going to do anything. Unfortunately, he is ignoring the fact that people are angry because he's making them starve.
Right.
Now, it was true that the left hating him, that doesn't really hurt Hugenberg in this point. They don't have any teeth anymore.
Fuck them. Right.
But he makes a major tactical error at this point because he chooses to believe my money, which Hitler needs, will protect my position relative to Hitler. I'll always be co-equal with him because I'm rich. And that just ain't the way it's going to play out. I want to quote from Beck again, summarizing what happens next. In late June 1933, while Hitler was trying to assuage international concerns about the long-term intentions of his government, Hugenberg appeared in London at an international conference on economic development. To the surprise of everyone, including the other German delegation members present, Hugenberg laid out an ambitious plan for economic growth through territorial expansion. The first step would consist of Germany reclaiming its colonies in Africa, Hugenberg explained. The second would be that people without space would open areas in which our productive race would create living space. The announcement made headlines around the world. Reich asks for return of African lands at London Parley, reads one New York Times headline. Below that, a subhead continued, also seeks other territory, presumably in Europe. Such a funny way to write about what World War II is going to be. They want Africa back. Also, some other stuff. Maybe in Europe. Who knows?
Now, Christ.
Today we can say, well, Hugenberg was just giving everyone a very accurate warning about what was about to happen. That is what goes down next, right? But Hitler and everyone else,
so many words.
Hitler's furious. So is everyone in the German government. For one thing, they don't have an army yet, right? Like the German army is bullshit at this point. Now, it's strong enough that it could overthrow Hitler, which is a big thing he's scared about, but it cannot conquer anything right now. So they're like, why? You're threatening people. You're like threatening to punch somebody and our arms are both still in fucking traction. Like you can't be doing this yet. Like there's steps before we start acting like this. And so Hitler has his other top people try to pull back from Hugenberg's statements. A bunch of other like cabinet members start being like, no, of course we're not going to take any Europe. We're going to get back into, we're just trying to fix Germany, baby. You know, Hugenberg is incapable of reading a room, and he doubles and then triples down. He keeps talking about how Germany's going to try to conquer everyone around them. And,
God,
the Nazis are like, bro, fuck!
Yeah.
Keep that shit on the down low!
Yeah.
Ultimately, the conflict culminates in a cabinet meeting with Hugenberg on one side and everyone else on the other, with... This tells you how bad things are. Hitler's the mediator. Okay.
Oh my God.
Everybody
just
calm
shouting.
down.
I can't think of a worse mediator in all of human history with Adolf Hitler.
If Hitler's the guy in the middle trying to keep everybody calm, things are not going to go well.
Hitler's like meeting gently with Alfie, meeting
He's got
gently
a hand
with
on his
everyone
shoulder.
else.
Hey, buddy, nobody is angry, you know?
Yeah.
So Hitler still at this point has some hesitation of totally dispensing with Hugenberg. And he tries to insist, like, hey, if you'll stop, everything's forgiven. You know, he tells the other people in the room what already happened is no longer of interest. But Hugenberg, again, refuses to read the room, and he doesn't mediate his language at all. And ultimately, Hitler forces him out of his job as economic dictator in late June 1933. You know, Hugenberg technically resigns, but it's obvious what happened.
Yeah.
And this is the end of Alfred's major period of influence in the Nazi regime. He will spend the remainder of the Third Reich living at his estate as essentially a small local dictator, right? Like he's got this little country home with some towns around it, and he just kind of runs things there, right? And the Nazis more or less leave him alone. They make him sell off all his newspapers. He has to sell his media empire, but he gets a good price for it, right? His party is dissolved pretty quickly after this, but he gets to remain a guest member of the Reichstag, which isn't really in charge of anything anymore. It's just sort of a, we'll let you keep this because we don't really want to have a fight with you. His wealth and connections did protect him from the Night of Long Knives. He's never purged, but he clearly understands it's time. I have to stay out of the spotlight if I don't want to lose my money and my nice shit. And that's what he does for the remainder of the Third Reich.
No way.
Yeah, he's just kind of chilling. And when Hitler shoots himself in that bunker and the Third Reich falls, Hugenberg had been out of direct power long enough that the Allies don't really focus on him as a danger. He does
Shut up.
Yeah, no, they kind of, he does get arrested in 1949 as part of like this denazification process, but he gets basically ruled to be like, you weren't really a Nazi. You know what? You can
He's really old by then.
He's old.
Too.
He dies 2 years later, but he's never punished.
Oh my God.
He's allowed to keep his possessions and his business, and he dies, you know, peacefully on March 12th, 1951.
Oh my! Did he ever have a family?
Yeah. I think he had some.
He
family.
did.
I don't think he thinks much about them. So whatever. I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they hated his guts. He sounds awful.
He sounds like a real dick. You know, they might not have been great themselves.
I'm sure. Yeah. Whoa! Wow! What a random piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean, he's a piece of shit that is very much crafted by his social class and his time. And he's very much, again, he is their Elon Musk. He's this guy who, as soon as the fascists come into power, gets the job of wiping out the administrative state and completely fucking the economy. And then gets shit canned, right? As soon as he's no longer useful.
Yeah. And I mean, it is true that like a major difference between him and Elon is that he came from not nothing, but nothing compared to Elon. And so
no rich
his
dad.
rise, exactly. And so like his rise is a little scary because there was like no warning. He was just like bobbing and weaving his way to this like opportunistic position. And it kind of inspires two feelings, like, holy shit, like who's going to be the next this guy? And wow, I'm kind of like soothed that more people like this are not coming up already.
I mean, they are. This is what Peter Thiel's got a little bit of Hugenberg in him.
True.
Musk has a little bit
right.
of Hugenberg in him.
It's true.
I think the difference is that, number one, most of those guys didn't bother to buy a political party of their own. Instead,
or like get involved with weapons manufacturing and like selling weapons. Really?
I mean, Peter Thiel owns Palantir.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a kind of weapon system. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah. And Musk hasn't so much gotten involved in that entirely, but like, you know,
but I guess define weapon in the digital age. It's tricky.
Exactly.
Yeah. Damn. Okay.
Yep.
Fuck. Whoa.
Mm-hmm. It's always the same people. Yeah.
And it's always a dude who has a weird face.
Yep. It's always a fucking some busted weird asshole. That's I don't know.
What a bastard.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for regaling me with that tale. It was a roller coaster. I keep thinking back on this art exhibit I went to in Zurich where, what's his name? Klumt? Gloop?
Oh, yeah. Was it Klimt?
Krupp.
No.
Krupp?
I mean, Krupp was the arm manufacturer, but I think there's a
Yeah.
Klimt artist, Gustav Klimt. Yeah.
Oh, not
Who's a painter.
Gustav Klimt. I'm talking about the weapons manufacturer, the arms manufacturer.
Krupp.
Yeah, that's Krupp.
Krupt?
Krupp.
Okay.
Krupp.
Yeah, Krupp.
Oh, Krupp.
Yeah.
Krupp,
There's a
yes.
Krupp family collection of artwork. Yeah, that travels around.
Yes,
It's massive.
Yes. Well,
And that's where their money came from.
yeah, that's wild. Because I was just like pondering how weird it was, and this was like the point of the exhibition, to like admire these beautiful artworks. I mean, there were like Monet's in there and Degas in there.
They got the money to buy them.
Yeah, and like he was like celebrated as an art collector, like this amazing taste or whatever, and like the reason he was able to acquire that artwork was because he was like making weapons that funded World War II or made World War II possible, and
World War I and II, because Krupp is arming Germany in both. But every one of those paintings represents a pile of corpses of teenage boys, primarily.
Yeah. Oh God,
it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
You love to see it. You don't, but you see it.
No, you do.
You do see it. Speaking of what you see, where can people see you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I love, and I hate, and I feel icky, and I feel great about knowing stories like the one you just told me. And if people want to know stories that will make them chortle and also feel a little disturbed, they can find me at Sounds Like a Cult Pod, wherever you stream podcasts. I have another podcast called Magical Overthinkers, and I got a bunch of books. Cultish, The Age of Magical Overthinking. I love talking about social science in a cheeky way.
Excellent. All right. Well, check out Amanda and her work, and check out our modern Alfred Hugenbergs as they engage in the process of flaming out and getting forced out by the fascists who are going to use the power given to them by these people to do God knows what. Hopefully, not as much as the last ones. We'll see. Everybody have a great weekend.
Behind the Bastards is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com, or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Behind the Bastards is now available on YouTube. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/@BehindTheBastards.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather. In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was nature, and trees, and praying, and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the biggest night in podcasting.
The countdown is on to our 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards. Live from South by Southwest, March 16th, we'll honor the very best in podcasting from the past year and celebrate the most innovative talent and creators in the industry.
It's truly a who's who of the podcasting world.
Creativity, knowledge, and passion will all be on full display.
And the winner of the iHeart Podcast Award is...
See all the nominees now at iHeart.com/podcast awards.
Audible is a proud sponsor of the Audible Audio Pioneer Award. Explore the best selection of audiobooks, podcasts, and originals all in one easy app. Audible. There's more to imagine when you listen. Sign up for a free trial at audible.com.
When segregation was a law, one mysterious black club owner, Charlie Fitzgerald, had his own rules.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
It was like stepping in another world.
Was he a businessman? A criminal? a hero.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
Charlie's Place, from Atlas Obscura and Visit Myrtle Beach. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.